Roosevelt.
Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, August 6th, 2025, 5:31 p.m. And we will convene and call to order the City Council work session for the City of Edina. As I said, this 6th day of August, 2025. And I'm going to ask our clerk, Sharon Ellison, to call the roll.
Councilmember Agnew is absent. Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Risser.
Here.
Mayor Hovland.
Here. We have a singular purpose tonight, and that is to go over the results of the Quality of Life Survey for 2025. And I think Jennifer Benarod is going to introduce the topic. I know that we talked about it quite a bit, all of us probably, on the National Night Out night last night. People are wanting to know about it. So, Jennifer Benarod, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. It has been my pleasure to oversee the City of Edina's Quality of Life Survey every other year since 2011. We have historically done the survey in odd number years, and we use the survey data in decision making for the next biennial? Is that what we call it? Biennium period. Thank you. When we first started doing these surveys, we worked with a local company at that time called Decision Resources. It's since gone through an ownership change and is known now as Morris Leatherman. They're based in Cannon Falls, where I happen to live, and they do their surveys by telephone. Beginning in 2015, we started doing a paper survey. At that time, the survey was administered by the National Research Center, which is now known as POLCO. POLCO acquired the National Research Center. The National Research Center developed what's called the National Citizen Survey, and some cities just do that survey so they can benchmark against their previous results and cities across the country. We do a custom survey, which is a lot of those questions plus some questions that are unique to Edina. The majority of our survey does not change year over year or survey over survey, again, giving us good benchmark data. The purpose of tonight's work session is for POLCO to go through the 5 key findings of the survey and the methodology associated with the survey and ask any questions that you have. Then during your 7 o'clock regular meeting, we'll do a much shorter presentation giving those highlights, those key findings directly to the public. We will follow this up with communication to the public, press release, articles, videos, and that sort of thing so that the whole community understands the survey results, and how we'll use the data. Unless you have any questions at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our POLCO representative, Mr. Jason Newmeyer. Are we good? All right. Jason, take it away.
All right, perfect. Well, I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm going to share my screen and we can work our way through this presentation together. As was said, we're going to have this first presentation is going to go into much more detail than the presentation we'll have in the public setting. Just want to confirm with a thumbs up here that you're able to see my screen before I go. Okay, perfect. I see some head nods. Great. All right. Let's move this here. Okay. Well, like I said, I'm very happy to be here, excited to be here to share the results from this most recent Quality of Life Survey for Edina. My name is Jason Newmeyer. I'm the Director of Survey Research here for POLCO in the National Research Center. I have been with POLCO for the last 4 years now, been in the social science field for about the past 10. I am, in addition to this job, a visiting professor at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, and I have a focus there in political methodology and local government in America. So, as I said, I'm excited to be here. We're going to work our way through a deeper dive of the Quality of Life Survey. We're going to talk both about the methodology and some of those key findings. But before we do that, I would like to extend a thank you to Jennifer, who was our primary contact throughout this entire process. She gave us thoughtful and detailed feedback from start to finish, including on the report that's been shared on this presentation, helped to make everything go smoothly. Also, I'd like to recognize Nicolas Solare. He was our primary project manager for this effort. Nico is great, and he said that everyone was a pleasure to work with there, and he was excited to work on this when it was assigned. So with that, let's talk a little bit about who we are first before we dive into some of those results. Polko is a powerful online community engagement platform and a data insights platform that's designed to ultimately help governments and organizations better understand and respond to the needs of their communities. We combine advanced data analytics and user-friendly engagement tools to help you confidently make strategic decisions, and I think most importantly, help to build trust between government and their residents. Today, hundreds of organizations nationwide use Polko for strategic planning, for budgeting, and for empowering resident voices. As was introduced before, Polko actually merged with the National Research Center in 2019, maintaining its social scientists and its data engineers. Today, NRC operates as Polko's in-house data and survey science lab. NRC is best known for our national benchmarking surveys like the National Community Survey, the National Employee Survey, the Community Assessment Survey for older adults. But in addition to those standardized surveys, we also work with dozens of communities across the US who complete customized surveys like this most recent effort here in Edina. Since 1994, NRC has worked with hundreds of jurisdictions nationwide, building the largest national database of local government opinion in the United States. You can also see on there we partner closely with ICMA and the National League of Cities, as well as many other local government leaders like the Alliance for Innovation, the Engaged Local Government Leaders, and many academic partners, including the American Association for Public Opinion Research, the University of Wisconsin-Madison here in Wisconsin, the Hoover Institute at Stanford University, and most recently, the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. All right, so what is the Edina Quality of Life Survey? The Edina Quality of Life Survey is a statistically valid survey of residents, meaning that we follow survey research best practices to randomly select survey recipients so that the results are representative of the entire population. The results provide you with the opportunity to see how residents view the quality of life in Edina, their opinions about issues facing the community, their evaluation of government performance and city services, and maybe most importantly for forward-looking and strategic planning, their priorities for the community and for resource allocation. So as was said before, this presentation is going to cover a description of the survey methodology, as well as an overview of the key findings that are highlighted throughout the final report of results. So this is the 8th time that Edina has conducted its quality of life survey. All households within the city were eligible to participate in the survey. A list of all households within the zip codes serving Edina was purchased based on updated listings from the United States Postal Service. And then using GIS boundary files provided by the city, any addresses located outside of those boundaries were removed from the list of potential households to survey. From that smaller list, 2,000 addresses were selected to receive the survey invitation. Those 2,000 randomly selected households received mailings beginning on April 7th, and this survey remained open for 6 weeks. The first mailing was a postcard inviting the household to participate in the survey online. The next mailing contained a cover letter with instructions, the survey questionnaire, and a postage paid return envelope. And then the third and final mailing was another opportunity, one final opportunity to participate. Both the postcard and the cover letter in both survey packages included a web link to give residents the opportunity to respond online, and all follow-up mailings asked those who had not yet completed the survey to do so, and those who had already done so not to respond twice. Also, and importantly, in an attempt to reach those populations that respond at lower rates to surveys, we oversampled multifamily housing units at a rate of 5 to 3 compared to our single-family addresses. A total then of 451 completed surveys were received from these efforts, providing a response rate of 24% and a margin of error of plus or minus 5%. Of those 451 completed surveys, 281 were completed on paper and 170 were completed online. We then compared the demographic profile of the survey respondents to that of all adults in the city using the most recent census and American Community Survey data and we weighted the final survey results. But we all know, that certain demographic groups are more likely to respond to surveys than others. For example, older residents are far more likely to complete a survey than our younger counterparts. Thus, survey results are weighted so that the demographic profile of that final sample of respondents more closely matches that of the city. This is a survey research best practice, and it helps to improve the overall representativeness of the final survey results. This report also includes comparisons to national benchmarks, which we'll talk about in just a few slides here. And in addition to those national benchmarks, we also provided comparisons to results from all other Minnesota jurisdictions within our database. So taking a look back here at the 6 most recent surveys done in Edina, we see that the 2025 response rate, which was 24%, was similar to the response rate from 2023, which was 25%, and much higher than our national average for similar survey efforts conducted by Polco in the previous 12 months. As was said before, we conduct hundreds of national community surveys around the US every year. The average response rate for the National Community Survey over the past 12 months has been between 12 and 15%. So being up in the 20s, mid-20s is a good score compared to our typical.
Jason, we have a question there for you.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Jason, this is Councilman Pierce.
Sure.
Person. So I need to, if you could go back, I think it's
Sure.
critical for us to understand this element. You talked about 3 or 4 different ways that you weight the responses. Like one, you talked about multi-housing. You just closed with one around age of participant. So I kind of got 2 questions. Why do we weight what we why do we weight what we weight? And where did this direction come from in how you quantify how much you're going to weigh those things?
Yeah, that's a great question. So weighting, ultimately what we're trying to do when we weight is we are taking our sample, which typically is going to have fewer younger respondents, fewer renters, typically fewer lower income individuals who are responding. And what we're attempting to do is we're looking at the most recent census and American Community Survey results. The last American Community Survey results that came out would be in 2023, and obviously the census is every 10 years, so that's 2020. And what we're doing is we're saying the percentage of younger adults who responded, we believe that their opinions more closely mirror other 18 to 34-year-olds in the community, as opposed to the 55 plus group that over-responded. So what you're doing is you're slightly, again, in a cohort of 451, these are very minuscule changes across 451 completed surveys. But what you're doing is you're ultimately turning up the volume a little bit on those younger respondents that responded, turning down the volume a little bit in other areas in an attempt to get your sample to match that of the Census and American Community Survey. And again, the idea is pretty straightforward. Those younger respondents who responded are more likely to be representative of other younger individuals than the other groups that are there. So we run a raking algorithm, 1,000 iterations or so, and we try to best fit across those demographics that match the American Community Survey and Census.
Okay, it's like it is really important for us to get that verbiage right, because we don't want anybody in the community to have a sense at all that we as a body are the ones that are figuring out what to weigh and how to weight it. So
Sure.
I'm a data guy, so I'm going to kind of repeat what you said. You're looking at a population set broader than Edina, right? And then figuring out how to make sure our results are valid against that broader population. And then
Yes, you've got it right.
you're figuring out the best way to weigh that to get that match that we need.
Yes,
Okay.
Wait a second.
yes.
We're matching to Edina
Yeah,
To Edina
demographics,
census data.
not,
Yeah, not outside Edina.
no, he's not
Right.
matching to it, but he's using the bigger population to figure out how those bodies, how to weigh their responses. So the example, give that example again, Jason, of younger residents, not younger residents, younger responders.
Yeah, we can do that. I actually have the weighting here in our survey methodology, so I can give you the actual numbers. So in our unweighted data, so this is our sample, the people who responded, we had, let's take a look here, 4% of the unweighted data were people that were 18 to 34-year-olds. The population norm based on the 2020 census and the 2023 American Community Survey says that there are 19% of the population being
of the
18.
Edina population.
Correct.
Yes, Edina
Yeah.
census numbers, yeah. So outside, more than the sample, but within the same percentage as Edina.
Exactly. We're trying to match our sample demographics as closely as we can to the Edina demographics that were collected during the 2020 census and during the 2023 American Community Survey.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you can see in the report, we run this algorithm that matches as many as it can. It's never going to line up perfectly, but it's going to give, again, a little bit more volume to those that need it and turn down the volume slightly on those where we have enough responses. This is a very standard practice when you're doing probabilistic sampling like this, but it's important, as you said, to get that terminology and that language right when we're sharing it.
This is Jim Hufflin. Some of the, or one of the comments you made about the selection of the 2,000 residents who received surveys caused me to wonder whether I misheard you, but the question I had that, based on what I heard, was what were the criteria for selection of the 2,000 residents who received surveys?
The criteria was that their address is based in the boundaries of Edina, and then we oversample slightly multifamily homes because multifamily homes are likely to have individuals in those cohorts that respond at lower rates. They're younger, they're more transient, most likely. Oftentimes they're in a lower income bracket. So we oversample those individuals in an attempt to grab more from those groups. But other than that, the only parameter is that the household is located within the boundary files that were provided for us.
Jason, I
And
think,
Jason, how do you know that about multifamily?
How would I know what?
What you just said. Multifamilies, they're lower income, you just gave 5 or 6 data points about multifamily. Which
That there are typically,
yeah,
that they're typically younger and more transient than a single family home.
yep.
Yeah, so I can pull the exact numbers. I don't have them in front of me right now, but this is a standard that we do in every NCS. I have the averages somewhere in one of my files, but yes, multifamily dwellings typically have individuals who are shorter length of residency individuals. Not all the time, right? But we're attempting to, once again, grab those populations that respond at lower rates. So we use that as a proxy, ultimately, in an attempt to have to wait less at the end by grabbing those individuals in that way. It's not a perfect measure, but it's one of the few measured items that we get in every USPS listing that we pull.
Yeah, I guess I was asking it more, I'm assuming that is national information. That's not
Yes.
Edina information that's getting you to that point. That's national information.
they're buying those
Yes.
from the United States Postal Service. We also, I think it's important to point out, we paid to oversample households with people of color.
Okay.
So not
Yes.
just multifamily. We historically with this survey have not had high participation rates from households of color. And if we don't get enough responses, the data for that subset isn't quality. So we tried to oversample. In many cases, you'll see we still didn't get it, but we attempted to oversample.
You know, you're applying all of this to make sure the result is statistically sound.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
that's probably consistent with your other surveys that you've done, both for us in the past, but also nationwide, is that you see a lower response rate in multifamily homes.
100%. Yes.
So what effort was made to have the criteria for the 2,000 residents that were selected mirror our demographics?
So the idea there is that they're just randomly selected, and when your sample is randomly selected, the hope is that you're going to align with the population norm because everyone had an equal opportunity to be selected. Now again, we oversampled by households that were likely to be people of color and multifamily units. Outside of that, it's fully randomized, and that's the process by which we can do our calculations for margin of error and things on the back end.
So you mentioned something that I thought that was interesting too, at least this is the way I heard it, and that was that on the profile of the approximate 450 plus responders, 19% of our population is of a certain younger age bracket, but only 4% of those 450
Right.
were in the responding group. What statistical significance does that have, if anything?
Yes. So then what we do, this is where the weighting comes in. So on the weighting table, what we do is we slightly turn up the volume there, and actually our weighted data sample includes 15%. So we can't get all the way to the population parameter, right? We didn't have enough 18 to 34-year-olds. I will say in our white, not Hispanic groups, we were able to weight to the actual population parameter, which is an improvement from our last survey iteration. But in this case, when we were weighting 18 to 34-year-olds, we went from 4% unweighted to 15% weighted in a target of 19%. So not all the way there, but better representation to match the 2020 and 2023 American Community Survey results.
Okay. And so what about the over 65 group? What percent of the 450 were over 65, or numbers?
Yes, so our the census actually goes 55 plus. So over 55 was 72%, and our population norm there was 58%, and we were able to weight that down into the 50s as well. So again, these are small changes across 471, but when added up cumulatively, we're able to weight them to the appropriate amount.
Okay.
Perfect. I just want to make sure we're okay here before we jump on, because we'll move into some benchmarking and things next, but I don't want to go past this if we have some more questions.
Well, I think just generally, where James has started the conversation here, we're all trying to make sure we understand the basis upon which you reached the conclusions that you reached. What were the foundational aspects of that, so that we know that we've got accurate data?
Right. No, that totally makes sense. And again, when we're talking, probabilistic surveying like this, the baseline foundation of it is the random selection, right? Every person in Edina had an equal chance of being a part of this sample. And because of that, we can utilize the weighting, we can utilize the margin of error, which we'll get to next. And we can talk about kind of the range of uncertainty and make sure that we are confident in these results to a certain confidence interval, which we'll get to in a couple of slides.
That's good, Jason. Like, we're in an environment today where nobody believes anything. And so the fact that we've done this for 8 years is great, right? Typically, you would just need to say you've done it 3 years.
8 times.
Right.
16 years, actually, every 2 years.
Yeah. And so we've done a great job of having data that we can trend against, but we're just in an environment where nobody believes anything. And so that's why I'm asking these questions, and we really need to be thoughtful about how we message what we did and why we did it.
The other thing I think that these folks don't know is that the data you've provided for us that we've historically created over time. Some of it was telephone data, and some of it is written survey data, and we find ourselves at times being questioned by our residents about, well, why was there a time when we were at 98% and now we're at 92% on people loving to live here?
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be able to explain that at least I think one factor may be that in the telephone surveys, and this is why Jennifer switched, I think, is that people were prone to be more positive in nature when they were talking to another human being.
Research shows that you want to
Yes.
please the person at the other end of the phone,
opposed
and
to
your
just-
answers tend to be more positive than neutral or even negative.
So when we shifted in 2011 or 2013 to 15 is when we made that shift. We kind of took it on the chin for a year because our results went down. We all expected them to go down, but we felt like they went down, but they were more representative of the community.
Yeah, which is good.
Which is better. That's what we want.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You're 100% correct. There's an effect called the social desirability effect, where you want to give positive results. In this case, we do everything to ensure complete anonymity when individuals are taking the survey, whether it's on paper or online. So you're much more likely to give your honest feedback in that setting as opposed to the phone setting. But again, yeah, we haven't done that for a long time, and actually maybe it was even the previous vendor who was operating those phone surveys for you. Yeah.
I don't think
Perfect.
they didn't do every one of them.
Okay.
Decision Resources did.
The telephone surveys were done by Decision Resources, which is now known as Morris Leatherman.
Yep.
When we made the switch to the paper or online survey, that's when we went with the National Research Center.
And that happened in 15. So that's what you're seeing here.
Perfect.
You got 10 years worth of data.
So 2015 we'll see data older than 2015, but 2015 is when we became more statistically accurate, in your opinion. Jennifer.
Well, Decision Resources would say that their survey was also statistically accurate. But again, this phenomenon that research shows that when you're speaking with a person, you want to be more positive in nature, led us to explore other options. Morris Leatherman does not offer at that time they did not offer a written survey. They were all in on telephone. So we made the switch to the National Research Center at that time.
Is it harder, Jen, to track cell phone numbers than it was, I mean, back in the day too? I mean, is that a component of it?
Back then, it would have been much harder than it is today to get cell phone records too. Most of those calls were made to landlines. Now, today, I'm confident they have a good database of cell phone records.
Yeah, and truly, I mean, we're back to our response rate slide here, and you can see we've had a slight decrease, not so much in the last 3 iterations. But if we would show this for telephone, I mean, National Research Center also did telephone surveys in the early 2000s, leading up to about 2010. And the difficulty now is, as Jennifer was saying, random digit dialing works really well for home phones when you don't have a spam filter, right? Or individuals where you can't just say, no, I don't want to accept that call. Typically now we're seeing response rates for phone surveys or text surveys. If we're getting to 3 or 4%, we're very happy in those cases. So the paper component is still kind of king right now. I'm sure there'll be continued adjustments to methodologies moving forward. But I can understand why you made the switch and why we've stuck with it for the last 10 years.
I do want to point out, though, it is a statistically valid finding that our quality of life overall, he's going to get to that key finding. I don't really want to step on his toes, but we have had a statistically valid decrease over the last 10 years. That's fact. Is it terrible to still be 92? Absolutely not. He'll tell you that that's among the highest in Minnesota. But is it a drop? Yes, it is, and we do need to own that.
Yeah. The nice part about having trends and comparisons and individual results here is every item that we share, you're going to have obviously the raw number, the percent positive, 92%. You're also going to see comparisons to the nation and to Minnesota. So that's another lens to look at this through. And the third lens is, how do you view compared to yourself, right? And we're going to see all of these results as we move ahead. But every single item that we ask about has the raw result, the comparison, and the trend. So there's a lot of different ways to digest these results, pros and cons on each item. So I'll jump ahead here and maybe cover the next 2 or 3. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
One more question on this foundational aspect of it. So you're saying that you believe that 24% response rate with the weighting provides a statistically accurate survey of people's general feelings, the general feeling of the public in Edina.
That's exactly right. And we'll talk about the margin of error on the next slide. There is a plus or minus 5% margin of error. Yes.
Can I ask an add-on to that?
Yeah, of course.
I hesitate to ask, but so you answered Mayor's question on the 24%. Nationally, what would that number have to be, the minimum for that number? What would that number be? And you might say,
yeah,
it's statistically sound, or do you have to?
Yeah, truthfully, the number on the left is really not all that important. It's the number on the right that's important. The number of responses is what directly correlates to our uncertainty coefficient, to our margin of error. So if we would have 450 responses, our margin of error is plus or minus 5%. Whether that took us 2,000 like it did here, or 3,000, then the response rate is down to 18%. If it was 4,000, right? The response rate is truly more of a measure of willingness to complete than it is a measure that we use to calculate anything on the back end or levels of certainty, right? So for the past 6 surveys, your margin of error has been between 4 and 5%. It has not declined as the response rate has declined because our number of completions has stayed the same. You'll see in 2021, we increased our sample size from 1,500 to 2,000 so that we would ensure we're continuing to hit at least 425 responses to get the margin of error there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. I think we've covered this one. I'll hop to the next slide, which is the margin of error, speaking of. So the result.
To the point where we believe what you were telling us.
I'm glad. Yes. Okay, so the results that were reported here for the entire sample, so for the entire 450, have a margin of error of plus or minus 5% at the 95% confidence interval. So this means that if the survey were conducted again under similar conditions, we would anticipate that every result you see in the report would be within plus or minus 5% in 95 out of 100 efforts. This is the standard 95% confidence interval that's used in nearly all probabilistic surveys like this. Now, it's important to note here that findings based on smaller subgroups within the sample will have a wider margin of error, reflecting the smaller number of respondents in those groups, right? Like age range or income level or sex. So this means that estimates for subgroups should be interpreted with more care, and you'll see that there's fewer statistically significant differences in those demographic subgroups because there's fewer individuals in each cohort. Now, in addition to looking at the margin of error, which is the top bullet point there, for a single effort, we can also provide comparisons to the 2023 survey. So differences of plus or minus 6 percentage points or more between the 23 and 25 surveys are considered to be statistically significant. Anything below 6% can be attributed to the margin of error, again, that's inherent in any probability surveys of this size. So that's what we're going to be working with moving forward. Trends, plus or minus 6% are statistically significant. A result that you see for the whole sample, plus or minus 5% margin of error. All right, so before we look at some of those high-level results, I do want to share a little bit of information on the benchmarking database, as a lot of the results that we're going to look at here in the coming slides and that you've seen in the report are going to have comparisons to other communities around the U.S. So at Polco, we have a benchmarking database that includes survey data from more than 400 communities across the country. The database includes responses from communities who have conducted our national community survey or a custom resident survey like we did here, all within the past 3 years. So our database also is going to include survey results from jurisdictions across the country who may not have surveyed with us, but we're asking similar questions, and we actually code all of those results into our national database too. So this allows jurisdictions like Edina to compare ratings of services to ratings of similar services across the US. So a number of questions on the survey were available for benchmark comparisons. We'll take a look at those here in a couple of slides. And beyond comparing to this entire cohort, we also compared all questions against other Minnesota communities. About 30 communities in Minnesota are in our national database. All right. So the next couple slides are going to run through an overview of survey results. I just want to make sure we didn't have any more questions or comments on the front third there. All right, we're good. So some high-level results here before we turn to some key findings. So as we just talked about, 78 items were available for national benchmark comparisons. A higher rating indicates that the result was at least 10 points above the benchmark, while a much higher rating would be indicative of an average rating that's more than 20 points above the benchmark. Likewise, a lower rating is any item which scored at least 10 points below the rolling national average. So items that rated as much higher than the national average include overall opportunities for education and enrichment, also K through 12 education, public places people want to spend time, shopping opportunities, snow removal, and adult educational opportunities. Those are the items that were at least 20 points above our rolling national average. Additionally, 35 other items scored at least 10 points above the national benchmark. You can see there's one item here on the right. This is the item that received a lower rating than the national benchmark. This was in relation to the question, what impact do you think the economy will have on your family income in the next 6 months? This item received a lower rating than communities around the US. In addition to those national benchmarks, 78 items were also available for comparisons with Minnesota communities. Each of these items had at least 5 other communities in Minnesota to compare to. However, the vast majority of them could be compared to against around 30 other Minnesota communities. In many cases, this is where you almost stepped on my thunder, or stole my thunder, I should say. In many cases, Edina ranked #1 when compared to other Minnesota communities. And I've got a list here for you: shopping opportunities, the overall quality of business and service establishments, snow removal. As a Green Bay, Wisconsin resident, I'm a little jealous of that one.
In Minnesota.
I know maybe shouldn't have said that.
The state to be #1 in stone.
Yes. Public places where people want to spend time. Code enforcement like weeds, abandoned buildings, etc. Ambulance or EMS services, public health services. Once again, the overall opportunity for education and enrichment, and adult educational opportunities. So just to reiterate here, Edina was the top community among around 30 in Minnesota in that for each of those items I just listed off. And once again, this time we have 2 items that scored lower than Minnesota communities. We have the impact again that the economy will have on your family income in the next 6 months. And our second item that scored lower is attracting people from diverse backgrounds.
Hey Jason.
Yeah.
Can you clarify your definition of Minnesota again? At one point you said there are a certain number of cities that you survey, I think, and then there's a broader group. So just clarify what you mean by Minnesota benchmark.
Sure. So the Minnesota benchmarks are going to include, for most of these, 30 other Minnesota communities who have completed a quality of life survey like this. They may have surveyed with us, they may have surveyed with someone else, and we've coded their results into our database.
Okay.
And then you can see the comparisons here across all 78. We have a full table breakdown in the report as well if you want to see how you ranked on each of the 78. But the highlights here are obviously those items where you ranked #1.
Okay, thanks for covering that again.
And tell us again, just generally, we were tops among 30 Minnesota cities in how many categories?
Let's see here. 1, 2, I should have used the numbered bulleted list. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 I see in my notes. Of these higher than, 11 of those 18, number 1, yes. Perfect. And then we have one more comparison that we can do. We can compare to yourself, right, from a couple of years ago. So when compared to results from 2023, there were 204 items this time that were available for trends. We maintained most of the survey to maintain these trends over time. As a reminder here, the margin of error between these surveys for it to be statistically significant is plus or minus 6%. 22 items received more positive ratings. Those with some of the largest increases include sidewalk maintenance, valuing or respecting residents from diverse backgrounds, providing a safe and secure environment for all residents, storm drainage and street repair. And then those items that rated more negatively or lower than 2025 include the availability of housing for lower income families, the availability of housing for lower income singles, drinking water, sewer services, and overall economic health of Edina. You'll notice in the report and throughout the rest of the presentation, we're going to indicate areas where the city exceeded the national or state benchmarks and where statistically significant changes have occurred from the 2023 to 2025 survey. So we're going to hit on most of these as we work through the presentation, and they're also highlighted in the report of results too. All right, so we'll move now into key findings. I do want to point out a few items that stood out to us as survey researchers. There's a lot of additional data in the full report that we won't cover today, but the rest of the presentation here is going to focus on some of the items we found to be most noteworthy within the survey results. So this is a summary of our key findings. We're going to take each of these in turn. We'll start here, number 1, first and foremost, with Edina residents continuing to enjoy a high quality of life. Second, residents generally feel safe, find it easy to get around. Third, city services continue to be highly rated, but we did see a decline in the overall quality of drinking water since 2023. Fourth, residents identify opportunities for improving housing options, especially for first-time home buyers and lower income residents. And then fifth and finally, residents feel that the city effectively manages taxpayer money and a majority support increasing tax revenue to preserve the current service levels. So we're going to hit these one at a time. I see that we're running running a little bit behind, but we'll move through these as quickly as we can. If there are certain topics that you would like to cover in the most detail, maybe we want to hit those first here, Jennifer, or should I just continue on in our normal routine here?
Just keep it rolling.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep it rolling. All right, I like it. All right, key finding number 1, Edina residents continue to enjoy a high quality of life. So residents continue to rate the overall quality of life highly. We have 92% of survey respondents awarding excellent or good marks in 2025. This rating is higher than our national benchmark and similar to peer communities in Minnesota. As you can see here, this rating is relatively stable, dating back a decade. We're between 92% and 98%. However, if we have the cutoff there at 2019, we did see a 6% decline since that time, but still 92% higher than national averages, in line with other communities in Minnesota. In addition to those high marks for overall quality of life, about 9 in 10 respondents stated that they would recommend living in the city to someone who asks, and that they plan to remain in the city for the next 5 years. Both of these ratings were similar to results seen nationwide and in Minnesota, and you can see here similarly, these results have remained steady over the years with no statistically significant changes since 2015 for either measure. Moreover, about 2/3 of respondents felt that Edina is a welcoming community for all people, and more than 2/3 said that it's welcoming to people of all ages, abilities, religions, sexual orientations, and gender identities. Meanwhile, as you can see on the slide, about 6 in 10 said Edina is welcoming for people of all races and ethnicities. And then finally, just around 1/3 of respondents felt that the community is welcoming towards people who have a lower income. All ratings here were on par with 2023, aside from welcoming people from all religions. This actually saw a 7-point increase from 65% in 2023 to the current rating of 72%.
So here's a question.
This is an exciting, oh, go ahead.
So you had a prior slide that's had two impacts that were heading south. I don't remember what the title of the document was, but it was the two downward trends. One was the impact of the economy on the individual household. The second one was attracting people from diverse backgrounds.
Yes.
It looks like we're welcoming, but we're not attracting. Is that, how do you parse that?
Yeah, so this is where we have to kind of consider all three lenses, right? So here for Minnesota benchmarks, it scored below our average of 30 Minnesota benchmarks. However, for national benchmarks, you were in line for that question. And let me jump ahead. Sorry, I got to click a couple times here. You'll see here that all of these ratings were also similar to the national benchmark, right? So this is where, in comparison to other Minnesota communities, we're lagging behind slightly. Comparison nationally, we're right in line. And comparison to ourselves, we're looking at about 2/3 for all of these ratings. As you get to the top, obviously, we're closer to 3/4. So it depends how you slice it and depends what way you want to look at your comparisons. All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, so this next one is a positive slide as well. So above and beyond these broader quality of life measures, residents were also asked about the opportunities they had to be involved in how Edina is run. The opportunity to participate in Community Matters saw a statistically significant increase of 7% from 2023, returning to levels that actually haven't been met since 2019. Additionally, we saw a 10% increase in respondents saying yes to the question, other than voting, do you think that if you wanted to, you could have a say in the way things are run in this community? Once again, this is a statistically significant increase from 2023 and nearly the highest percent yes that we've seen in this question over the last decade. The quality of several then broad characteristics of community livability were also evaluated on the survey. About 9 in 10 residents positively rated the health and wellness opportunities in Edina, the overall quality of natural environment in the city, and the overall opportunities for education and enrichment. Meanwhile, as you can see here, about 8 in 10 gave excellent or good ratings to the overall economic health, established built environment, image or reputation, and neighborliness of residents. Each of these ratings were similar to 2023, aside from the overall economic health of the city, which saw a 7-point decrease from 2023 from 90% to 83%. Edina residents rated several community characteristics higher than our national and Minnesota averages, including the opportunities for education and enrichment, health and wellness opportunities, and importantly, this is again another opportunity to look at this multiple ways. Even with the statistically significant decrease, the overall economic health of Edina scored above national and Minnesota benchmarks. Additionally, you can see here the overall established built environment and neighborliness of residents scored above our rolling national averages. In addition to those overall characteristics, residents were also asked to rate several of these specific community characteristics. As in previous years, the highest rated individual aspects were cleanliness, shopping opportunities, recreational opportunities, and the overall quality of business and service establishments. Each of those received excellent or good marks from around 9 in 10 residents. Other very well rated aspects here include K through 12 education, fitness opportunities, and public places where people want to spend time. Once more, you can see the corresponding relationship to the national and state benchmarks with shopping opportunities, recreational opportunities, the overall quality of business and service establishments, and K through 12 education scoring above both comparison levels, while cleanliness and public places where people want to spend time exceeding our rolling national average. Then survey participants were also given a list of 11 potential reasons for choosing to live in the city. They could select more than one, and they could also write in an other response here in the included list. As in 2023, the top reason for living in Edina was the location and convenience. That was selected by 75% of respondents, and a safe community. selected by 57% of respondents. You can see the additional items here that were selected by around half of respondents include city amenities, good neighborhoods, good schools, and an attractive community. And then our last item here in the quality of life measure, as in previous years, respondents shared their perspectives on sustainability and climate change efforts in the city. So survey respondents assessed the quality of 9 sustainability services or initiatives that were provided by the city. All received excellent or good reviews from at least half of respondents. Fostering natural habitats in public spaces, energy conservation and efficiency programs, and organic recycling collection received the highest marks, with about 3/4 or more saying that those services were excellent or good. When compared to ratings given from 2023, most were similar here. However, in 2025, a significantly higher proportion of respondents gave favorable ratings to reducing transportation emissions, that's plus 9%, and investing in programs and policies to address climate change, that's plus 7%. All right, second, residents generally feel safe and find it easy to get around in Edina. As in the previous slides, one of the top reasons residents gave for living in the city was that it was a safe community, selected by 57% of respondents. When asked specifically about safety, 9 in 10 residents rated the overall quality of safety as excellent or good. This is a rating that's on par with both our national and Minnesota benchmarks. You can see once again, relatively, this rating has remained relatively stable over the past few survey iterations. We're ranging anywhere from 98 to 97%. Residents also rated how safe they felt in 3 different areas of the community. About 9 in 10 residents said they felt very or somewhat safe in their neighborhood and in the downtown area, while about 2/3 felt safe in the Southdale area. Each of these items were similar to ratings given in the past 2 years. We do have a longer term look here, a longer term trend, and we can see the overall rating, your neighborhood rating, and the downtown rating have remained relatively stable over the past 10 years. Although we see some small declines, each of these are within 10 percentage points of their initial ratings back in 2015. The feeling of safety in Southdale, however, has declined by 15 points over the past 10 years, with the most significant drop occurring between 2021 and 2023. So although the change from 2023 to 2025 is not statistically significant, this overall trend is a significant downward result. And then residents were also asked to rate 5 additional potential problems related to crime. About 3 in 10 respondents felt that youth crime and vandalism, as well as property crime, were moderate, major, or extreme problems, while about 1 in 10 felt that drugs, violent crime, and hate crimes were problematic. You can see these ratings are largely consistent from 2023, with drug-related crimes seeing the lone statistically significant change, actually a decrease in concern. The 2025 survey also actually included a new question where residents were asked to indicate what they believed would be reasonable response times for the Edina Fire Department to reach their homes in the event of emergency. You can see here that half of respondents indicated a response time of 5 to 6 minutes would be reasonable. An additional 1 in 10 expected a response rate of 4 minutes or less, while 3 in 10 felt that 6 to 7 minutes was acceptable. Ultimately, rolling these together, these responses highlight that most residents, 94% actually, expect a response within 7 minutes or less. And then finally, respondents were also given an opportunity to provide feedback on the ease of travel in the city. Over 8 in 10 respondents felt that the overall ease of travel in Edina was excellent or good. This evaluation was similar to the one in 2023. In addition to assessing this overall trend, residents also provided feedback on the ease of travel by walking and the ease of travel by bicycle in the city. About 7 in 10 respondents positively rated the ease of walking, a rating that was on par with 2023, while 6 in 10 residents gave high marks to the ease of travel by bicycle, also on par with the 2023 results. But looking at the longer term trend here again, both ratings have improved over the last 10 years. and compared to the national and Minnesota averages, residents here gave ratings that were similar for both the ease of walking and the ease of biking. You can also see, relatedly, about 8 in 10 residents gave positive ratings to the availability of walking paths and trails. This rating is up about 20 points over the past 10 years in our past 6 survey iterations. All right. Third, city services continue to be highly rated, but we did see a decrease in ratings for drinking water from 2023. So Edina residents evaluated a number of services provided by the city, as well as the overall quality of city services. Between 8 and 9 and 10 residents highly rated the overall quality of city services. This is similar to previous years. More than 9 in 10 respondents gave positive ratings to ambulance or emergency medical services, park maintenance, fire services, city parks, and police services. Among the lowest rated services here were land use planning and zoning. This was rated positively by 57% of residents. In general, residents here, the ratings given by residents here tended to be higher than the national benchmark, but similar to Minnesota communities. And when compared to 2023, most service ratings were similar in 2025. However, we did see increases observed for land use planning and zoning, sidewalk maintenance, storm drainage, and street repair. And taking a look at the drinking water, we see that about 6 in 10 residents gave excellent or good ratings to the overall quality of drinking water. This rating declined, as you can see, by 11 points since 2023, but remains similar to our national and Minnesota benchmarks. The reliability and safety of drinking water in Edina were rated as excellent or good by around 8 in 10 respondents. While nearly 3/4 of residents provided positive evaluations of the water's odor and appearance, and almost 2/3 rated the taste as excellent or good. These items remained in line with results from 2023, even amid this lower overall rating for the quality of drinking water seen on the left. Yeah, that's a good answer, or a good response there. I'm not sure exactly why that might be. All right, fourth, residents identify opportunities for improving housing options, especially for lower income residents and first-time home buyers. So I don't want to reiterate this, but we covered the top 2/3 of this table here when we discussed community characteristics. For most of those, over 2/3 of respondents gave excellent or good reviews, and you can see their relationship to the benchmark in the stars on the chart. However, 3 items scored below 60%, including the variety of housing options, the availability of affordable quality housing, and the cost of living. The latter there received excellent or good marks from just 35% of respondents. When we take a step back and we ask residents to identify the most serious issue facing the city, 2 of the top 5 items are related directly to housing development and affordability. 19% of residents commented on overdevelopment, the wrong type of development, whilst 13% cited the need for more affordable housing. You can see the other items included in the top 5 here: traffic and infrastructure, city government, and finally, safety and crime concerns.
Can I have a comment? Overdevelopment and the wrong kind of development have been concerns now on the past 2 surveys. And at the same time, we also get planning, land use, and zoning ranked really low. And I feel like we keep getting this feedback and we don't do anything with it. I know we are in the process of rewriting our zoning. That's not enough. And the thing is, yes, our code is convoluted, but it's not that convoluted that it can't be consulted and read. And one thing, I've been looking at how other cities do zoning. I won't go off on a huge tangent, but when they do high density residential, like this is Bloomington, they cluster it near significant roadways. Okay, when we say where you can put in 100 units per acre or 150, we do these massive blocks and we don't acknowledge road capacity or building height limitations or anything like that. And so I think that really sets things up to shock residents and surprise them and, you know, present them with a building or a project that they never thought would have been done in their neighborhood. So I just wanted to say that, and I hope, since we're getting this feedback again, that we try to figure out, you know, what is driving this, and really take it seriously, because I don't think people are just saying it to say it. I think there's validity to that, and I think we need to drill down and figure out why, and it would really be prudent to do that before we start engaging in comprehensive plan revision, because if we don't get this right, that's gonna totally go off the tracks.
Well, wait a minute, now, I just wanna make sure I understand this. So, 19%, this is the top 5 most serious issues facing Edina. 19% think overdevelopment and wrong type of development is an issue. Am I correct in understanding that that's 1 out of 5 people?
Yes, you are correct. So this is an open-ended question. So this was coded by our team here and verified. Yes, you are correct.
So I have a question about how surveys that you see nationwide, is this kind of array something between 10 and 20% of top issues are kind of
Yes.
spread around an array like this? Or are there some communities where there's a peak where everybody's gonna, you know, 50% of people are worried about crime? Can you tell us how this compares to other cities?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I certainly can. So in unless there is some type of major event, this is very typical, where it's 1 in 5, 1 in 10, 1 in 10, 1 in 10. Now, I just worked with, I'm not going to remember the name now, Eden Prairie, and they had in the past had a spike in safety concerns, for example, over the past, you know, during the unrest in the streets. That went way up, right? Now we're seeing everything come back down, and everything is within 1 in 5, right? Taxes have returned toward the top, overdevelopment, affordable housing. This is very typical from what we've been seeing in presentations I've been giving and in our national community survey. Number 1 issue always listed is housing and affordability, 1 and 2. Usually followed by safety third, which we have here actually at number 5, but it's all within 1 or 2%.
Thank you.
So I thought, when I looked at this, and like, we're not debating, right? Just my impression, when I read the top 5, that made me go, oh yeah, we're focused on all 5 of those things. Now, you have to, once you start to quantify, well, what does traffic and infrastructure mean, right?
Yeah.
And you start really getting into the details, you know, maybe there are things in there that we need to focus more on or need to focus less on. Overdevelopment, wrong type of development. Maybe we are overdeveloped Southdale district and we need to do different kind of development across Edina. I don't know. But I think our process from a zoning, when we look at the comprehensive plan, I hope that process will kind of ferret out where are those areas that we need to focus. But I would have been disappointed if you put 5 things up there and we've only talked about 2 of them in the past 4 years. I'd be really concerned at that point. So I thought it was great that you asked that open-ended question.
Everybody's got their own view of how to read this data.
Yeah.
Julie's got her view. I've got my view, you got your view. My view was, it told me that with 1 out of 5 people, we weren't doing a good job of explaining why we do what we do from a development standpoint.
Yeah.
That people still aren't understanding why multifamily, we do multifamily, for example.
Yeah.
Because I'd say generally you hear people concerned about apartments.
Yeah.
And they don't even know who's in apartments or why are we building them.
Yeah.
And it tells me we're not doing a very good job of explaining how those types of places provide housing for people that A, can't buy right now, don't want to buy right now, multitude of reasons, and you know, what they're paying for rent. Because when you tell people they're 95% full and somebody's paying $3,000 a month for rent, they kind of at least when I have my conversations with people, they kind of go, whoa, wow.
Yeah.
It's good data.
So,
Yeah, and then we have some more. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Did I cut someone off? I thought maybe I heard something. Oh, okay, sure. And additionally, you'll see here the third one is more affordable housing, and we're going to hit on that. The concerns about household issues, maybe I'll set this one aside because I think the next slide is even more important. So residents were presented with a question on housing and future development in the city. Oops, whoa. And specifically, they were asked if there was the right amount, too much, or too little amount of housing available for different groups of people. Okay. Overall, a majority of respondents felt there was too little housing for lower income singles and lower income families. That's 61% and 66%. That's shown in the pink shaded bars in the bottom two rows. You can see here slightly fewer residents, but still a majority felt that's the same about housing availability for middle income families and middle income singles, 54 and 50%. And then you have the contrast, right? Most respondents felt there was either too much or the right amount of housing for high income families, high income singles, with only 3% reporting that this was somewhat too little housing for these two groups. So that plays into more of that third item, right? Affordability. And then we have residents were also asked about future housing choice priorities. Specifically, how important do you think it is for the city to encourage each of the following? You can see about 3/4 of respondents said that it was essential or very important for the city to encourage the preservation of small starter homes. These are homes with fewer rooms or amenities that are available and affordable for first-time home buyers. Around 1/3 prioritized medium density development like townhomes and accessory dwelling units like small homes above garages or backyards. And you can see here, as you talked about apartments, only 1/4 of respondents felt that the city should focus on higher density development like that. And again, compared to 2023, each of these remained stable except for the preservation of small starter homes. That saw an 8-point increase in importance since the last survey iteration. All right, then we have one final key finding here. This is residents feel the city of Edina effectively manages taxpayer money, and a majority support increasing tax revenue to maintain the service level. So in 2025, residents were asked whether they agreed or disagreed with 4 statements that were related to how Edina manages public finances, specifically regarding taxation and public services. So about 7 in 10 respondents strongly or somewhat agreed that the city effectively manages taxpayer money. Meanwhile, 6 in 10 agreed that the city should raise taxes annually in a small increment to cover the rising cost of services over time. Half of respondents supported raising taxes only as needed to meet increasing service costs. And then you can see at the bottom, around 3 in 10 residents supported reducing public services to avoid future tax increases. Residents were also asked about the current level of satisfaction with municipal taxes and services. About half of respondents reported being satisfied with the current level of municipal taxes and services, while 1 in 4 respondents felt that they paid too much for the services that they received. And then finally, only around 1 in 7 said that they would accept service reductions if it meant lower taxes, while 1 in 10 said they would pay more taxes to get more services. So to bring all of this together, the survey results suggest that a majority of Edina residents recognize the financial pressures here that inflation places on maintaining our public services. Specifically, as you can see on the slide, 6 in 10 respondents favored increasing tax revenue to preserve the current service levels, indicating a general willingness to support some additional funding if it helps to sustain the quality and the availability of current city services.
Jason?
Yeah.
Was that question new this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have to check. I believe it was new, Jennifer, right?
It is, yes.
It was new, yes, yes.
Jen, it was one of their questions, right?
Yes, when we have, for the most part, when we want to add a new question, I'm going to talk, in this case, I worked with Nico on the questions. We want to ask questions about taxation as we prepare for our budget. What questions do you have in your bank? That allows us to compare nationally and to Minnesota if they have them. questions like the fire response time, not in their bank yet. Or we asked a question about the France Avenue pedestrian crossing, obviously not in the bank. Those are just unique to us. But they help develop these questions based on what they have in their bank and what their survey experts recommend to, so you're not trying to get a specific answer, keep it neutral.
Right. There was no comparison to 2023, and I'm like, well, okay, I wonder what it was in 2023.
Right.
But we don't know.
That's a very smart way to do it.
That's right. Okay, well, that is the entirety. We have the summary of key findings here again. I think our last slides are just questions and thank yous. So I'd be happy to run through any other questions you have, maybe about the process, the report. I know we're running up on time here, but if you have anything, I'd be happy to answer it now. Otherwise, Jennifer and I can collect those questions and we can respond to them in due time as well.
What time are you planning on spending in the main council meeting?
I think the stage agenda has us set for about 20 minutes.
20 minutes, okay.
Again, a 10 to 15 minute presentation and then an opportunity for you to ask some questions of him publicly.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'll hop off here and I'll see you again shortly for the public presentation.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you, Jen.
Nicely done.
Again, if you have any questions that you want me to have Polko answer, let me know. I'll get those for you. They've been pretty responsive within a couple of days.
Okay, we stand adjourned.